It's time for Justice for All, Behind the Badge video. Streamed live from Team Toyota Route 1 in Langhorne with your host, Tom Mellon. Featuring Bucks County District Attorney Matt Weintraub and Bucks County Sheriff Fred Harran. Here's your host from Team Toyota, Tom Mellon.
Welcome to our wonderful show Behind the Badge, brought to you by Team Toyota. And there's Paul Muller, our owner, just walking by favorably with a nice smile, cup of coffee in your hand. Life is grand, isn't it, Paul? It's a show that we're very proud of, Behind the Badge. We bring to the surface a lot of revelations about the professionalism of our officers, the leadership. Fred Harran, my co-host, who for many, many years, just to give a little brief interview of Fred's background, remarkable police career of more than 30-some years. Of that, many years as the Director of Public Safety in Ben Salem, and now presently the Sheriff of Bucks County. He has a lot to say, believe me. Right? A lot to say.
Good or bad?
Good or bad. You know what you will get?
This is true.
What you will get is the truth. Who was that? What was the show?
Come on, Chris. You know
I
that.
want the truth. Nothing else but the truth.
A few good men. A few good men.
A few good men. That's what I'm saying. I want the truth.
The difference between this and that show, you can handle the truth.
Yeah, we can.
We can handle the truth.
We can handle the truth. We just need a lot of changes in this world that's upside down. It's always been the United States of America. I call it the divided states of America right now because we have so much disparity and. Come on, let's come together and try and, bring back some courage that we need.
We'll be fine. We'll survive.
We will.
I forget what movie. Maybe Chris knows, but there was a line in a movie that says, there's far more things that unite us than divide us.
Oh, my God, yeah. Absolutely.
You got me on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we bring notable points of interest on this show. Brought to you on WBCB radio. It's 1490 AM. Bree, how are you this morning? You all right? You behaving yourself?
Well.
Yes. When you're on the show, when Chris is here, I happen to briefly peek over from time to time. And, she's just like eyes wide open, her mouth is dropped. This is why we bring these stories to you from the experience that we have with our special guests.
You don't think it's the caffeine drink, yeah?
I don't think so.
It's not the monster drink.
Or else you'd be walking around with bulgy eyes all day. Yeah, that's true. I think it's the show that we bring to you each and every second Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. with Fred. That's Behind the Badge, and then we have Justice for All, of course, with the the judge, Your Honor.
Your Honor elect. I don't know.
That's right.
What do you call him?
That's a good question. We're going to have to call him and ask him. Mr. Weintraub? No, but he's now the Common Pleas Court judge, correct?
Well, he's elect.
Elect.
Yeah, until January.
In January, then he'll be stepping in. Yeah. And then Jennifer Shoreham will be taking over as the first assistant district attorney.
Well, as the DA.
As the DA, then.
Yeah, she's
at that point. Oh, I guess now.
Yeah, she's the first assistant now, so she'll be the district attorney. I'm excited about that.
That's
Jen's
great.
A great person.
Oh, I love her. Yeah, she's on the show Justice for All. We bring many good guests on, and I want to introduce once again our special guest, Detective Chris McMullen, who has dedicated the last, I would say, 2 decades of his investigative career with cold cases. Chris, thanks for joining us today. I know we're going to be talking a lot about cold cases, your experience, how it all began.
No, it's good to be back. Thank you.
Yeah. What have you been doing over these past several months? Anything important? I'm sure they are.
Working for Sheriff Harran is very important, and that keeps me quite busy.
That's true. That's true. But you were promoted to detective. Now, this is, oh, my God, I'm going to guess 23 years. I mean, around 20.
January 2000.
2000, so it's around 23
years.
23 years. And it was soon after that, like a couple of years later, you had a knee surgery, a knee injury, where you were limited to what you could do as an investigator.
I had knee surgery, and I was in a cast and on crutches, so I was bound to my desk. I was on desk duty. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go out into the field. So that was when I started looking into the unsolved cases.
The unsolved cases.
Yeah.
A friend or co-worker of yours suggested, I believe, why don't you open up some of these cold cases and see what you can dive into. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. Some of the cold cases, your involvement with the VDOC Society, which we'll explain a little bit later on, to our listenership, because that's just an incredible group, a think tank, I would call it.
It is. It's like a big think tank,
of
professionals from various disciplines. And
yes, criminal psychologists, medical examiners,
police officers, local, state, and federal. Psychologists and all.
Behind
scientists, genealogists. And then what happens is agencies with unsolved cases, they'll come in, they'll give a presentation. Usually it's a PowerPoint presentation on an unsolved case, and they'll give us the whole presentation, and then it just starts, have you tried this? Have you tried that? They'll put together a nice report for them on what is, what hasn't been done and what they suggest, angles they may want to try and bring that case to closure.
Incredible. I had the opportunity of being down at the Union League many years ago. In fact, I brought Paul Muller, Fred, down.
Oh, geez.
He sat in as a guest. As we discussed just a few minutes ago, my cousin was there. He's a member of the VDOC Society, Jackie Maxwell.
Great guy.
Yeah, and we talked about his hair. A lot of hair in our family. We're very fortunate. But Jackie, he's part of the VDOC Society, and just a composite of incredible investigators and pathologists, genealogists, all of these people.
I was fortunate enough I think it was 2017 I became a member, but they've done some great things. Just most recently they were responsible for getting the funding and getting the work done for the genealogy to identify the boy in the box.
Incredible. But we're going to talk more about that. But I want to bring our good friend in here, Freddie. Let's talk about some of the scams that are going on out there. I think it's important that the society understands that it's not going away. We have too many people out there with the criminal intent to keep it going.
Yeah, we're getting killed right now with scams. I mean, we're just talking about
every
this
day.
Morning.
Jesus.
And they're getting very technically savvy. They're spoofing our phone numbers, so it looks like it's the courthouse calling you. They're using real names of people that are employed as deputy sheriffs. So, this is all easy information to find out. But it's unbelievable. We just had in the last couple of weeks, I think that it was 12 and then like 11, over 20 different ones. And what they're doing now is they're telling people that they missed jury duty and there's a warrant out for their arrest. And in a couple particular cases, they were telling people the fines were $2,500. If you pay the $2,500, then you won't be arrested. And they're targeting, good, hardworking people that think to themselves, did I throw a jury notice out and I didn't show up and now I'm going to get arrested? I can't afford to get arrested. Nor do I want to be arrested. So they pay the $2,500. And then I guess sometimes some people before they pay and sometimes people after they pay, they realize something's not right and they call us. But in many times after the money's paid, there's not a lot that can be done. We were actually just talking about this morning, trying to get a real larger investigation opened on this and seeing how far it goes. But they were doing a year or so ago, and I've only been in the office now coming up on 2 years. But they were doing asking people for gift cards. If you buy this gift card and give me the numbers, that'll cover your fines. I'm thinking, I know people get scared, but nowhere ever does the sheriff's office take gift cards for fines or relinquishment of warrants. We don't take payments for warrants. The only way to get a warrant pulled is going before a judge. So, they're transferring money through third-party applications like Venmo and what's that other app called? I forget. There's a couple of them out there now.
I forget the name of the other one. One of the gift cards, I think it's called Green Dot.
Green Dot. Where it's cash.
Yeah, it's just like transferring cash. You get the gift card, you scratch off the number, and then they put it into an account, and then
it's gone.
The money's gone. I mean, unfortunately, the victim paid cash for the card, and then they've then transferred the value of it to the scammers, and it's gone.
It's insane.
Oh, God.
And many of these people are certainly outside our county, outside the Commonwealth, and some of them, in some cases, outside the United States. So it's hard to reach out. But really, crime needs a person to be a victim.
Yes.
And, if something does not sound the slightest bit right to you, don't do it. And give us a call, not from the number that they gave you, but just call the sheriff's office or call, look it up, online, call us directly, and we'll straighten it out for you. You can email us. You can come in. We have an office in Quakertown, in Levittown, and Doylestown. So come into one of the offices, and we would be, we'll work it out with you.
Sure. Before you jump in.
Before you jump in. We don't take any money over the phone. That's not how we operate. If there's a warrant for your arrest, 2 uniforms are going to be at your door. That's
true.
That's how we know that it's for real. But these scams are just getting worse and worse, and they're really targeting good people, and people are paying it because they just don't want to deal with it.
They're targeting small businesses too. Sometimes
Really?
medical offices, and the amounts they go for vary. They may call a dental office and tell them that they had an unpaid parking ticket, and it's now they'll go for $500. They figure it's almost like a nuisance fee. Then the office will just pay it because they don't want to stop. They don't want to be disrupted.
Correct. Yeah.
And we had that happen.
We've had that happen several times.
Yeah.
There have been, thankfully, a lot of people that were suspicious of it, and they'll hang up with that caller, and then they call us, and I speak to a lot of them, and the first thing, it's absolutely a scam. Do not talk to them. Block their number.
Right.
And I encourage people to do that. If you are suspicious, say thank you, and then call the real sheriff's office.
Yeah. Last night they called a police officer from another jurisdiction to scam him. They don't know who they're calling, and,
Sure.
and he had enough sense to realize this is a scam because he knows that that's not how law enforcement operates.
Right.
But some people don't realize that. But
No, they don't.
We're telling you that we don't call you asking you for money, and we certainly don't call you and have you get gift cards transferred to third-party accounts like Venmo or Green Dot or whatever.
Yeah, this guy, he wanted to give the potential victim, he wanted to email him a web link where he could make payment through that.
Yeah,
so they're very sophisticated.
Oh, I'll bet they are. Yes.
And like I said, like Fred said, they're using an app, some type of spoofing app where it looks like it's us calling.
And they have the names of our employees?
Yeah, and sometimes they'll use names of people that are retired. They don't realize that. But they're using names of current employees too, which they get from the media or
right to know. I mean, just open records. I mean, there's so much information out there.
There is.
And I think we've talked about this when I first started coming on these shows. Our founding fathers and the framers, when they wrote a lot of, our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, they had no idea, what was to come.
With technology.
With the technology.
I mean, you talk about the Fourth Amendment search and seizure.
Terrible.
There was no throwing drugs or contraband down an indoor toilet because there was no such thing as an indoor toilet. Did they conceive of indoor plumbing? I don't know if they conceived of it or not, but back then, in 1776, in 1775, there was no indoor plumbing.
No,
so
there wasn't.
Who the heck knows? And the internet is just outgrows us every day.
It sure does.
And the laws just can't keep up with it. And, a lot of issues go before the U.S. Supreme Court. It's just, this is not what we had in mind, and it's just insane. But if you think something's wrong, chances are it's wrong, and
go with your gut.
Go with your
You have
gut.
to.
When one or two hairs stand up in the back of your neck, you know something's wrong. So, just know that. But it's getting worse and worse, and I feel bad for some of these folks that get scammed. But we could stop it just by being a little bit more cautious.
Cautious of it. That's the word, using caution. I see it on Facebook now. I mean, there's offers that people can just all of a sudden hit. They want your first name, last name, social security number. Never give that out.
No, you don't give anything out. I mean, when I don't know, I know we're coming up for a break in a little bit, but I want to come back. When we come back, 4 times one of my credit cards got hacked. And
happened to me as well.
But 4 times in a row. Every time I got the new credit card in the mail, it was like they have a program running my credit card number all the time. And as soon as it goes live, they're trying to buy something. I'm like, I was, the one time it was, I was getting on a plane.
True.
And, I have more than one card, but this was actually an American Airlines credit card. And I had to pay for my bags and all that because it was free with my credit card. But I hadn't, my credit card was deactivated while I was sitting in the airport because the credit card company shut it down because it was scammed again. And then we're going to tell you how they find out your passcodes. And I can't believe it. And there's a social media app out there that I bet you all of us use that I would never have expected to be the culprit.
My God.
When we come back, I want to tell you a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So this measure of frustration that you have, transcend it over and give it to the professionals before you make any unnecessary steps and bad steps. That's for sure most important. You're listening to Tom Mellon behind the badge here with my good friend and co-host, Fred Harran, who's the Sheriff of Bucks County. Chris McMullen, thank you for joining us today. We have a lot more to share with you. I don't, but these gentlemen do. Don't go anywhere. We'll return after a few moments.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Hi, this is Mayor Jeff Martin of Hamilton Township, inviting you to tune in to our monthly radio show, This Month in Hamilton. Video stream live the fourth Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. at WBCB1490.com. We will be featuring various guests from Hamilton Township to keep you up to date on what's going on in Hamilton.
Are you a parrot head? Not that kind. That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny-O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
We're back with Behind the Badge with Fred Harran, my co-host here, the Sheriff of Bucks County, and Chris McMullen. We thank him immensely every time he has an opportunity to come in here to share a lot of his investigative skills that have led to the arrest and conviction of people and finding that starfish theory. I want to talk to you about that. You know, Every starfish that's found, you throw back in the ocean, and it makes a big ripple because it does place a lot of comfort to the families that were distraught. But anyhow, back to the scams. They tried to scam me a couple times on Facebook and calling me on the phone.
Oh, I get them all the time.
Yeah, you have to give us a call because we need some information from you. You owe us $2,800. I don't know anybody $2,800. All of a sudden, I'm in. Where you? And then I stop. I know exactly what.
So that's what they do. They plant a seed of alarm in you.
Sure, they do.
And then they misdirect you, and then you want to make things right. So that's how sometimes people fall for it.
So when they call Fred, a number, the Sheriff's Department, behind that phone, obviously as a professional, what steps are taken to maybe search for a path to get these guys? That's a difficult question, I know.
It is difficult because, like I said, so many of these are outside of our reach, certainly outside the county, outside of Pennsylvania, and sometimes outside the U.S. So, without going into too much detail, Chris and I were just talking about this, but we're gonna try to get something done as best as we can. I can't really go into detail on it,
right?
But we're going to try to get something done. We're working on something. I don't know if it'll work, but until that happens. I don't know if this is a good analogy or not. You get to a dangerous intersection that has red lights working. Stop for the red light until the intersection can be reconfigured. At least use what tools are out there. And in this particular case, just be a little, a little wiser, a little bit more alert to what's going on. Nobody, PICO, no one's asking for information over the phone. They'll send you emails. We don't ask for this. We don't, so. Don't give out any information. Don't open it. Don't be curious, like what more are they going to say. Just delete it. Mm-hmm. I don't open the apps. As soon as something seems a little strange to me, I just delete it. I'm very careful what I open. Also, I know we've talked about this before. Never use your debit card for purchases. Only use a credit card. Even if you can't get a credit card, you could probably get something for, of course, $500 or $1,500 credit limit. Even if you have, rough credit or something like that. But don't use your ATM card. That's the worst thing you could use. to buy stuff. Use it if you have to tap Mac. Well, that Mac ATM. Kids listening have no idea what Mac is. I think it's a burger. If you can't, go use the ATM, but use an ATM that's inside a store. Wawas are the best ATMs to use because they're inside. They're 24-hour surveillance. So that would be, my suggestion. But we started talking about the break, and this was I just learned this. I never even thought about it. So when I had this problem with this particular credit card 4 different times, the last time they were asking me all these personal questions about, to verify who I am. And I'm listening to the questions, and I'm so annoyed already. This is the 4th time, and I'm like, it's the same questions in different formats. And I'm thinking, somebody said to me, you know where bad guys get the answers to this? LinkedIn. You put all your work history, all the places you've lived, where you've moved, all this information is on LinkedIn. So they would ask me a question, a credit card company, the following, which jobs in the whatever are you associated with? And it gives you a list of 4 that 3 are just ridiculous.
Jeez.
All you have to do is go on my LinkedIn and figure out which one it is. What addresses or what locations, what cities have you been in the last, not been, but lived or whatever. All you got to do is go on my LinkedIn. Schools. So, in some cases, when they ask for like mom's maiden name, those are a little harder. But I haven't been asked that question in years. They're asking me other questions that are all on my social media. And I said to the credit card agent, the security person, I said, where are you getting these questions? I mean, how do you guys know what school I went to or where I lived? They said, oh, we just search you on the internet, and that's how it's a formula they have. It's an app, not an app, a software that the credit card companies, MasterCard and Visa. So I'm like, well, if MasterCard and Visa are doing it, the bad guys are doing it.
Of course they are.
So MasterCard and Visa got to get their, I almost
act
said,
together.
She almost had to bleep me out. Have to get their act together. Good catch.
Yeah, that's a 3-letter word, but we're looking at a 4-letter word I think you know.
Yeah, got to get their stuff together.
Yeah, there you go.
Got to get their stuff together. Maybe it's an S word anyway.
Yeah, there you go. It is an S word.
But they got to get their stuff together because the bad guys are figuring this out. And for the life of me, I would have never thought. And then, LinkedIn, you only get, if you don't have the extra premium package, they only show you like the first 2 or 3 people that search you in a month. Otherwise, they just tell you the following people from the following background searched you, so you have no idea. Most people don't buy that premium package. So, LinkedIn, I used to think, and hopefully I don't get sued by LinkedIn, but
Jesus, but it's true.
It's a great social media app or business app, whatever you want to call it, but we got to now be careful. So the bad guys, they start to get one step ahead of us.
Sure.
So I would have never thought about that, but as I'm filling this stuff out online, not filling it out, but talking to this person on the phone, I'm like, all this stuff is on LinkedIn.
Jesus.
That's where they're getting these answers from.
Yeah.
So they're getting the answers, they're changing their phone number, they're changing my email address, and then I get an alert from the credit card company, your email address has just changed. If this wasn't you, please call us.
Yeah.
So I call them. It doesn't do me any good because they shut the credit card down and they say, you'll get a new credit card in 7 to 10 days, and the process starts all over again.
It's happened to me.
4 times it happened to me with the same card, and it's aggravating.
It is aggravating.
And it's not a 10-minute phone call with the credit card.
No, it's about a half an hour.
Half hour, if not more. Yeah, the one time I think it was 42 minutes on the phone. Like, who could do that?
Yes.
Every couple of weeks. So
here's something as a thought, and I'm sure someone has thought it long beforehand, is that with all these apps that are you're capable of putting onto your phone and the technology that's involved, is there a way to put a tracer on the phone call, or are these culprits out there using scrambled numbers? Because if you can trace a call for a certain period of time, then maybe you can trace it and record it, and then maybe we can get somebody. Is that possible?
They're probably using burner phones.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. The laws and the laws have to catch up with the technology.
They do. They really do.
There's so many victims out there, and it's just not right.
Yeah.
And somebody gets victimized over and over and over again, or somebody like me who's been hassled 4 times. Where does my quality of life come into play? Why does that criminal have more rights than I have?
That's true.
I just don't get it. And
I don't either.
Some of these people, when caught, throw them in jail for 3 years. That'll set a little of a message.
That'll make them think twice.
Why do you think people commit so much crime in Philadelphia? Because there's no penalties for it.
Do they have phones in these prisons too? Do they have a right to have a phone in the cell?
I don't think they have phones.
I hope they
They have
don't.
tablets.
Yeah, they have tablets, but they
So
can't.
that's bad enough right there.
But the tablets are, and I'm not, don't quote me on it, but you can't just go anywhere on the
Okay.
internet with those tablets.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't think you
So
can
there's
go.
limits to it.
Yeah, I think there are limits to it. I actually have a prison board meeting today at 1:30. I'm going to ask that question because
Why
I'm
not?
curious.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm fairly sure that there are limits on it.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Getting back to the tracer and the phones. I mean, cigarette smoking's bad for you, but yet we still allow the sale of cigarettes. It has proven that it leads to cancer and your mortality is reduced. But with these phones that are burned, why don't we just do away with them? Why don't we just prevent it? Prevent the sales of burned phones, because it will reduce the criminals out there,
Well,
their activities.
And I think they're out there is because people that can't have bad credit can't get phones by Verizon, AT&T.
Right.
So, I mean, we have to figure something out.
You're right, but as you said, the law has to catch up to the technology, and it starts with preventing certain measures.
Even those phones, you should be able you should have to register them,
Yes.
and they should be for criminal activity trace. Listen, I could care. I've always said it. I mean, we joke in the house, but it's all happened to us. You'll be talking to your wife or you'll be talking to your friend about a subject matter, and 10 minutes later you start getting ads for what you were just talking.
How's that happening?
Because they're listening
That's
to you.
right. AI, artificial intelligence.
It's listening to you all the time. So who cares? I mean, there's literally nothing that listen, you know me. I say what's on my mind anyway.
Sure you do.
So I could care less. You want to listen to my conversation?
Right.
Okay, you might get ticked off.
Right.
But what I got to say,
Right.
listen away. I could care less.
Yes.
There's nothing I really talk about that I can, unless we're talking about some sort of, criminal justice issue.
Where you have
my
to,
personal conversations and when I talk to you, who cares? Listen away.
Exactly.
And I'm not. Please,
America.
listeners, I'm not promoting. Big Brother should be listening. I just want to make that clear. I'm not promoting that, but
True.
we have to meet somewhere in the middle because people have the right not to be victims.
That's true.
And we're making it easier and easier for criminals to make victims out there. And we have to be able to balance that. And we are not doing a good job of balancing
we're
that.
not.
We're failing miserably. And, for people that get scammed, we have to find a way of stopping it.
This artificial intelligence is frightening to me because you'll get phone calls and it's really not a person. It's a robot of some type. It's just a device that they're talking to you about, maybe your credit. It could be anything, selling you something over the phone. But this AI it's very frightening to me. Before you know it, wars will be conducted where we'll just put a militia of robots out there.
There's been
holding
movies
weapons.
about it.
They have movies about it now.
You know what freaks me out? The robot in the grocery stores.
They're always walking around.
What the hell is that about?
I know.
Yeah.
And they beep, they stop when you're, they won't bump into you. I'm waiting to hear.
What do they do?
Pardon me.
They look for spills and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it's a workers' comp and liability thing? Do you know what they do?
I don't know what their purpose
They're
is.
like little towers.
I remember there was a while back there was an incident where one got out of the store and was roaming around the parking lot.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know where, but
I think they
remember
look for
hearing that.
spills and stuff. I think that's their
They
purpose.
probably do.
They're freaky looking though.
They are very freaky. And they have a mind probably too back there generated by this artificial intelligence. Before you know it, you won't even have checkers. That's happening at the tolls right now.
Yeah.
Everything's going through.
That
the
I like.
tolls. That's nice. It's
I'm
very
all
efficient.
for that.
Yeah.
We got to love Jersey. You can't get plastic bag, but they don't mind you sitting in traffic on the Atlantic City Expressway and having workers work on the same area just
Forever.
The same thing. Well, Philadelphia, are there plastic bags in Philly? I think so.
There are.
I know there's some down Doylestown. You can't get a plastic bag, right?
I don't think so.
No more plastic bags in Doylestown. And
Come in with your own recyclable bag, and then
Crying
when you
out loud.
purchase something, you put it in the bag and you go home with it. But it's ridiculous. It really is. You're listening to a great show here today. I mean, because a lot of the things that we're talking about are frustrating you as well, our listeners out there. Behind the Badge brings a lot of notable points of interest to you. We're going to be covering more with Chris McMullen and Fred Harran. Don't go anywhere. We still have another half of a show. Isn't that great? We're not finished yet. We have a lot more to share with you, and of interesting points of view as well. On behalf of Paul Muller, the sponsor here, don't go anywhere. We'll talk a little bit more with you on the other side of our sponsorships.
Hi, Paul Muller from Team Toyota. With the season finally changing, things in the car market are pretty much the same. You can wait for months to find a new car, or don't wait at all. With over 100 certified Toyotas in stock with low mileage and great warranties, you can drive one home today. Plus, get free maintenance and roadside assistance for 1 year. Or choose a budget-friendly used car that meets your financial and lifestyle needs. So start the season in your new used car at Team Toyota. Just visit teamtoyota.net.
Hey, this is Jonesy. Kick off your Thursday and Friday evenings in style. Join me for an eclectic freeform mix of the hits and beyond. It's a happening, a musical journey. It's the Glenn Jones radio experience right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, Thursday and Friday, 5 to 6 p.m., directly following the legendary Jerry Blavitt. Radio, the way it ought to be.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
Are you curious what old antiques, collectibles, or household contents are worth? Listen Friday mornings for What's It Worth with Mike the Appraiser, right here on 1490 WBCB.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington.
We're back here with Behind the Badge, and one of the purposes of this show is to bring very important guests on so that you'll understand how effective crime resolve occurs, and the indulgence and the hard work and the perseverance of your leaders, and with our police, with our investigators. Fred, we talk often about many of these cold cases, and Chris, you've just dedicated your the past 20 years with cold case investigations, diving in and working with a team, as you had said, with your criminal psychologists, your medical examiners, the VDOC Society, which we want to talk a little bit more about. But let's talk about the one case, your late friend, Frank Bender, who was a forensic sculptor, as I understand it, and the co-founder of the VDOC Society.
He was one of the three original founders of the VDOC Society. And
this one case that you just continued to work fervently to find out just what was behind this unknown individual. It was the Jane Doe that they called in Ben Salem. It was a distillery somewhere. It was
an old defunct distillery on State Road. It was called the Publicker Distillery.
That's it.
Just below Street Road.
Lisa Todd, the Lisa Todd case, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
When she was found, it was that I don't know what year that distillery went out of business, but there was a lot of buildings there, and it just became kind of like a dumping ground for stolen cars and partying back there and things like that.
Sure.
And it had a series of, I always described it as underground, something like a bunker, where if you saw the photographs, they were these concrete vaults that went deep into the ground, and there was a steel ladder that went down it, and there was valves and pipes, and it had something to do with the process of the distillery back when it was functional. And it was in January of '88. There were some people back there walking, and it was opened.
Okay.
The hatch was open, and they looked down, and it was by the time I came along, it was filled in. But from what I could see in the pictures, it looked like it was about a 12-foot
drop
descent down into there. Yeah, and there was a human skeleton laying on these pipes, and so the police were called, and they came out and they found that it was a fully grown human skeleton, and it was a female. I mean, the anthropologist came along later on, but what stuck out right away was there was also fetal bones.
Okay.
So she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
When she passed away.
That I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she had on designer jeans. She had on a nice blouse, and there was other clothing that was in there. There was a couple pairs of shoes. There was some, other items.
Preserved to a certain degree, or
not? I mean, it was exposed to the elements, so
okay.
Everything was pretty weathered.
Okay.
it was estimated that she had been there deceased for about 3 years.
I see.
So we'll put it back to sometime in late '85 when it was theorized that she died and was placed there. And I believe she was placed there. That if she had fallen, she would have had injuries.
Okay.
The way she fell onto these metal pipes, and she didn't have anything consistent with that.
Okay.
But she was never identified. There was the missing persons database was checked for a young girl. It was estimated that she was between 17 to 23 years old, Caucasian, and she was about 6 months pregnant. And there were no missing person reports that matched that criteria. So she became a Jane Doe. That was in '88. I think it was in '92 or '93. Well, no, the VDOC Society I think was formed in '92, so it must have been shortly after. I think it was in '93 or '94. Frank Friel, the director of public safety at the time, he was a member of the VDOC Society, and he asked Frank Bender to create a sculpture from the skull of this decedent. Now, Frank Bender was he was a very unique guy. He was an artist, but he had a way he could look at the skeleton of an unidentified person, and he could see what they looked like in life. And
remarkable.
He would make these sculptures, and he solved many cases throughout the country.
Wow.
And the name of the case escapes me, but it was somewhere in New Jersey where a man killed his family, and he had gotten away. His whole family was found murdered in the home, and he was in the wind, and it was believed that he was still alive. So Frank actually created a sculpture of what he thought he would have looked like decades later, and he went down to a five and dime store, and he got a very cheap pair of reading glasses, and he put these glasses on the sculpture, and they actually found that I can't remember his name, but
right.
And he even had glasses that were similar to what Frank yeah.
Wow.
Which there's a book about Frank. It's called The Man with the Crooked Nose, and it talks about his life's work. But I was fortunate enough to meet him, and when I had reopened the Publicker case in 2002. I reached out to him, and I said, I'm looking into this. I'd like to find out what your opinion of it is. And he told me that he thought the decedent was a young girl named Jeanette Tamby. So I looked into Jeanette Tamby. Apparently she was an 18-year-old girl, and she had last been seen in October of 1984. And she was... From what I was told, she was missing. She wasn't in the system as missing, but I was told she was missing, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Okay.
Her parents were deceased, but I was told that she had a brother. What I wanted to do was I wanted to get DNA from a family member.
Of course.
The biggest thing, and I say this all the time, and a buddy of mine, Tom, this is his quote, but for these cold cases to try and solve them, you have to bring them up to current standards. And what I mean by that is, you have a case that's been sitting on a shelf for 20, 25 years. In the last 20 to 25 years, technology has increased greatly, and there's several untried techniques to solve this case that weren't done. So you need to bring them up to current standards, and that takes money, of course.
Of course.
So back at the time, there was a grant. It was called the President's DNA Initiative, and it was to get DNA from unidentified decedents to put into what's called the CODIS system, which I'm sure you've heard of that. It stands for Computerized DNA Indexing System.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is, so I was able to get that grant, and I was able to ship the skeletal remains of Jane Doe to the University of North Texas, the Center for Human Identification, where they extracted a DNA profile from the remains and uploaded it into the CODIS system. So it goes up into the CODIS system, and then it's basically a clearinghouse. Mm-hmm. To put it very simply, on one side you have all these DNA profiles of John Does and Jane Does. On the other side, you have family reference samples of people who have a missing family member. And about every month or so, because they're constantly putting new ones into it all the time.
Sure.
It sees what matches, and sooner or later, that's how a lot of people are identified. So I wanted to get her into that, and I did, and that, to me, that was okay. That's a big step. We have her in CODIS now. I was told that she had a brother. It took me quite a while to find him. The last address I had was in South Philly. I went down there. He was no longer there. Eventually, I find him out in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, which is near Scranton. He didn't have a telephone. I reached him by mail, and then he called me back. So I made arrangements to go out and see him. And I showed him photographs and jewelry that were found with her, and he didn't recognize him. He said, they always thought that his sister just ran away, and his parents were deceased, and they really
loss of interest.
Sorry
to say.
Yeah, and he just he really
gave up.
As nice as he was, he couldn't really give me any information, but he did agree to give me his DNA after I explained the CODIS system to him.
Right.
I told him, I said, there's a good chance this might be your sister. The timeline was right. 3 to 4 years that the decedent was there, dead. And when his sister disappeared, the age was right. And if you looked at a picture of his sister and looked at the sculpture that Bender made,
pretty close.
There was some similarities.
Okay.
And at the time, I was very naive. I'm like, well, I didn't. I thought, it could be her, is what I thought.
Sure.
It was worth a shot.
Of course it was.
Got his DNA, sent it down into the CODIS system. And it was funny, the day that I came into work, and there was a letter on my desk from the University of North Texas. And I hadn't even opened it up. My phone was ringing, and it was the University of North Texas. And they said, you put a DNA profile of a Joseph Tamby, that was her brother's name, into CODIS. And I said, yes, I did. And they said, well, that's and right away, I didn't even I'm like, that's Publicker.
Wow.
Publicker, Jane Doe is Jeanette Tamby. And they said, yes, it's a mitochondrial match with a Jane Doe that was found in Buena, New Jersey in August of 1986. And I'm like,
what?
That's exactly. So I said, okay, well, we have a match. I'm thinking, well, who was my Jane Doe?
Yes.
But so put that on hold. So I wind up going to New Jersey. I meet with the New Jersey State Police. They had this Jane Doe victim. She was a murder victim. She was found there was a house that was being built in the Pine Barrens. And the people that were having it built apparently came to check on it on a Sunday. And they found this girl's body in the backyard.
Wow.
And she was never identified, and so that was a match with and she was very post-mortem, but looking at her photograph and looking at the photograph I had of Jeanette, it was absolutely her. We hit a little hurdle because the medical examiner, to change the death certificate and say, yes, Jane Doe is Jeanette Tamby, needed nuclear DNA.
Interesting.
Now that's parent to child.
Right.
Well, her parents were deceased. And there was no way. Well, they were actually deceased, and from what I was told, cremated. So there was no way. Even if I had the money, which I didn't, to do an exhumation. I've only done that one time, and I had to beg, borrow, and steal for that money. But so I said, well, I don't know how we're actually going to, find this out. So in doing some digging into the old Jeanette Tamby file,
yes,
I found, and I was told by the original investigator, that in 1985, before Jeanette's mother passed away, they took blood from her.
Interesting.
So for 28 years, we had a vial of blood in our evidence room in the refrigerator. I was actually, and we were in a different building back then. We had changed buildings. Yeah. So I couldn't believe it, but there was a vial of blood there, so I took it right to the state police lab, and they tested it, and boom, we had a nuclear hit. So we had identified their Jane Doe. She was our missing girl, Jeanette Tamby, which was great. It was a great,
resolve there.
There.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still left the question: who is Publicker Jane Doe?
Right. Right.
So, unfortunately, Frank Bender was very sick at the time when I had seen him, and By the time Jeanette was identified, Frank had passed away.
Oh, boy.
I did spend some time with him at his studio and got to know him, and he was a neat guy.
Oh, terrific guy. We're going to get back with Chris McMullen because I know this Lisa Todd, there's more of a link eventually where there was a resolve to that as well.
Yes.
Yes. We'll take a quick pause for our sponsors once again. You're listening to Let's Go Places. Listen to me. That's another one. Behind the Badge here. That's our other show, Let's Go Places. But Behind the Badge here with Fred Harran, my co-host, the Sheriff of Bucks County, and Chris McMullen, Special Investigator now with the Sheriff's Office. And we'll return after a few words from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. There's more on this particular Lisa Todd case. The Jane Doe Publicker Distillery, they called it also, right?
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
There really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota is the choice for your next vehicle purchase or service this season. With new Toyota models available for immediate delivery and over 100 certified used and pre-owned vehicles for any budget. Plus service specials to keep you on the road to victory. Shop or schedule online at teamtoyota.net or choose one of our 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Are you part of the team?
Opinions matter, and so does yours. Hi, I'm Joe Fabrizi, inviting you to join us every Monday at 1 p.m. for Opinions Matter, right here on 1490 AM WBCB. Opinions Matter is now live streamed at WBCB1490.com. We want to hear from you because your opinion does matter.
Are you a parrot head?
Wasted away again in Margarita.
Not that kind. That's more like it. If you're this kind of parrot head, don't forget to check out the Denny O Polka Show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon right here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3. Serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1958, you can now listen to all of your BCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We're back here with Behind the Badge with Fred Harran, our Bucks County Sheriff, and Chris McMullen, very special investigator who is, he continues to scratch the surface whenever it's necessary. Let's get back to the Lisa Todd and conclude on that. I know there's some other good points of interest here.
Right, so just in recapping, we thought that we were going to identify, when we got the call, that the identification was for our Jane Doe, but it was actually the Jane Doe in New Jersey, which was a great resolve for both us with the missing persons case in New Jersey with identifying their Jane Doe, but it still left the question, who is Publicker Jane Doe or Bucks County Jane Doe? I had tried another method of identification. I was working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Since she was estimated as being 17 to 23, if she was 17, then she technically was a juvenile.
Yes.
So St. Mary's Hospital was very gracious, and they donated a 3D CAT scan. So I literally drove to St. Mary's Hospital with the skull in a bag.
Of course. And
went in, and we did a 3D CAT scan of the skull, and then that CD was sent to NECMEC, and they had a program where they rendered what they felt the person looked like in life. And it was a neat program, and they came up, and they would give you, straight on profile angles, and so then that image was then circulated into the media. Like I said, trying to keep these cases with current standards. I mean, I had this case, I had it on NECMEC's website, NamUs, the National Missing and Unidentified, and even just amateur sleuth websites. They would say, I would put it out there. I put the case out everywhere because my thing was, it's been decades, it's unsolved. Like, the only way I'm going to get it solved is if somebody recognizes something, and that's what I kept, so the jewelry, the photographs of the clothing, and then the different, Bender sculpture, and then the 3D CAT scan. And then there was an art student from an art school in New York City that did one out of clay. so I had 3 different images, and they all had similarities. They were all put out there. Because I kept saying, somebody has got to be missing this girl.
My gosh.
She was pregnant. She had some nice clothing. I mean, she had jewelry. You know, somebody cared about her.
Yes.
Somebody is missing this girl. And it was really... So then I tried another... I got another grant for a technique called isotope analysis, which is basically your hair and your bones absorb isotopes from the environment in which you live. I'm trying to dumb this down for my own good because I'm not the scientist.
No, it's very interesting.
But they can, your water supply, for example, has a big impact on that, and then they come up with. This person may be from this region, like the far northeast, or they might be from the west coast,
right,
and things like that. And so I tried that because there was a time I was thinking that maybe she wasn't from the area at all, and that was why she wasn't being recognized. And the isotope analysis put her in this vicinity, so I was, thinking
confident, and I was some positivities there.
Yeah, I was just frustrated because. It was going on 19 years that I was. I mean, she had been deceased, well before that. The case was past 3 decades at that point.
Sure.
But in keeping up with the times, investigative genetic genealogy had come onto the scene, and that first came out when the Golden State serial killer was identified.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of kicked that off, and. Fred here was able to get the lab work done pro bono from Bodie Labs. Ben Salem worked with Bodie Labs for our local DNA database.
Okay.
And which to me that was a jackpot to be able to get that done. That was a lot of money,
I'll bet.
They donated to us. So it took quite a while to get the profile. And then I had teamed up with a woman named Yolanda McClary, who's a very well-known genealogist, and she used to be on a TV show called Cold Justice, if anyone may recognize that. But anyway, once the profile was uploaded and she started building the family tree, I could not keep up with her. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. She would say, we're looking here. She said, I got a person out here out in the Poconos of Pennsylvania that looks like she might be actually a first cousin.
Oh, boy.
So I'd track that person down, and I'd call her up, and I'd tell her who I am, and this is going to be kind of a strange phone call, but this is what's going on, this is what I'm doing. Did you ever have a relative that vanished? And she said, I would love to help you with this, but I was adopted, and I don't know any of my biological family.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was just, frustrated. So they're kind of the hurdles and the brick walls you hit.
Sure.
But that actually has a happy ending. So we're about 4 days into building the family tree, and I say we. It's Yolanda and her team. I'm just running down the leads. And it was on a Friday, January of, and she tells me, I just sent you an email. There's 2 names in it, Joseph Todd and Lisa Todd. They're from Northeast Philadelphia. Jane Doe is their sister. That's what she says to me. And I'm like, wow, okay. So it's a Friday night. It's in the winter. It's raining, and I'm trying to find a phone number because if I have to go down and banging on doors on a rainy Friday night, I'll do it.
Right.
But I was hoping. So I finally was able to get a phone number. Well, I couldn't get a phone number, but for Joseph Todd, I found his daughter's email address, and I sent her an email. And how'd you like to get that email?
Oh, can you
But
imagine?
she called me right back.
She did.
So I told her who I was and, again, what was going on. And I said, I laid the... She was young, so she wasn't around...
Of course.
When this occurred. But I said, so with everything I've told you, I said, did your father ever have a sister that disappeared? She said, yes, he did.
Wow.
I said, what was her name? She said, Lisa.
Oh.
So that's when the name Lisa Todd was. I said, okay, I need to talk with your dad. She said, well, he's on his way home. I'll have him call you.
How did you feel at that point after all this work?
I got goosebumps now telling you the story. So I should tell you how I felt then.
The hair on your back.
I really, part of me was in disbelief because, for 19 years I'd been trying to identify this poor girl.
Right.
So her father called me about 20, 25 minutes later. He was speechless.
Oh, my God.
He said, you found my sister? I said, yeah, I think I did. I said, why don't you give me your address? Come down. Myself and a couple other detectives went down, and I brought the photographs of the jewelry, and he recognized the jewelry right away. I said,
no kidding.
Before I even showed it to him, he described what the ring looked like. It would look like a belt buckle. And he said, I remember that ring. And I asked him, I said, she was older than him. She was the oldest of 3 kids. I said, did your parents ever report her missing? He said, yeah, they did. He said, I remember the police being in our living room.
Oh, my God.
So now that I know her name and date of birth, I was able to do an offline NCIC search and look for purged records. And lo and behold, she had been reported missing in October of '85. So it was, the 3-year estimate was right on the money.
Right on, spot on.
Spot on. And but once she turned 18, she was taken out of the system.
Off the rolls, sure.
And that's unfortunate. That really shouldn't have happened.
No, it shouldn't have. No.
So had she still been in the system, she probably would have been identified relatively soon after her remains were found. But she was a Jane Doe for 36 years.
My God, and you brought closure to the brother.
Yeah, and then we found out that she had a son that was 2 years old when she disappeared.
Oh, jeez.
And this poor guy, he thought that his whole life that his mother abandoned him. He didn't know. And I got a hold of him.
Oh,
and,
my God, that's even more closure.
Yeah, and he great guy. I'm not going to say his name or anything like that,
sure.
but he was a great guy. He I even attended the funeral, and I gave him his mother's jewelry, and he was very thankful. And he said, he said, I'm not happy that my mother's dead. He said, but at least I know she didn't abandon me.
Yes, yeah, that's closure in itself, and
so that was
unbelievable.
That was really good. I mean, it was a nice
closure to that.
Yeah, and I have theories on how she wound up there, but I'm not going to go into that right now. That's still being looked into.
That'll be another show. No, that'll be another show. And now I know you have other cases that we can bring up when Fred brings you back. But here we are at the end of this hour, and I'm glad that you ended it with some positivity there.
Right.
The only thing I will say is if you look at a picture of Lisa and look at Frank Bender's sculpture, right on the money.
Spot on.
Spot on.
Great job, Chris. Great job.
Frank's great
Remarkable.
job.
And Frank as well, the late Frank Bender. Well, we're at the closure of everything. Just a quick remark. It was Election Day yesterday. And what annoys me and frustrates me is that everyone has an opinion, whether it's on the left side or right side, down the middle, whatever it may be, Republican, Democrat. It doesn't matter. But when you voice an opinion, behind that opinion comes a certain amount of responsibility, I believe, Fred, Chris, to vote. Get out and make something count.
Yeah, it doesn't look like even half the registered voters made it to the polls last night.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible. So you really don't have, in effect, the true opinion of and the result of what that person elected should have been. It could have been the other side. If everyone came out and voted, you would have had different results.
No, true. I mean, a lot of people just come out when it's a presidential year.
Yeah.
But truth of the matter is your local elected officials have more impact on your life than the presidential elections.
Isn't that the truth?
And people don't understand that it's the local stuff that really affects your everyday stuff. Does a federal election affect you? Yeah, to some degree, but not like a local election. So what are you going to do?
It's terrible.
Next time.
Yeah, next time we'll have some other topics. Chris, I hope you'll be coming back to talk to us from time to time.
Thank you.
These investigators and all of our leaders in society here in Bucks County, they make a difference and keep this area safe, keep Bucks safe, and they care. They do care. That's why it's important to come out and vote, to make sure we put the right people in that position. This is Tom Mellon on behalf of WBCB 1490. Behind the Badge. Fred, thanks again for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
It was great. I'm sure you have another busy day today, along with Chris McMullen. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
It's always interesting, right, Bree? Yeah, it's great. Bree nods all the time, but she... look, I'll have to put a headset on you, and you can join in from time to time.
You should have her on the show next time.
That's right. We should. By popular demand. She's saying, no, please. She's very effective behind the wheel there. I want to thank everyone once again for listening in. You can stream this anytime. Google it. WBCB, Tom Mellon, Fred Harran, and it'll pop right up because of the technology that we have today. And until next time, be safe, stay well, don't text while you drive. That's most importantly, right? And God bless America. That's the most important thing.